welcome to the kitchen. This morning I'm going to make some custard biscuits, so I thought I'd bring you along and show you what I'm doing. I've preheated my oven to 180 degrees, which is 350 Fahrenheit. If you're cooking on gas, that's I think gas Mark 4, but I'm not certain. So if you're going to follow my recipe and you're using gas, best check that one so you don't burn your biscuits. I've also, as well as preheating my oven, I've prepared 2 baking trays. If you don't have 2, that's quite alright. You can use 1 and then cook the second batch when the first ones come out of the oven. This will make 24 biscuits. I don't know if I'd said. I've also cut an extra piece of greaseproof paper. We'll use that near the end to dip our biscuits in chocolate. If you want to. You don't have to dip them in chocolate. So we're going to start with some salted butter. Not just some. 150 grams of salted butter. This is room temperature soft butter. I chopped it into cubes about an hour ago so it would soften up while I was eating my breakfast and be ready for the mix. Get off of there. So soft it's stuck to the saucer. There we go. I want it in my biscuits, not on the plate. There. Put that away. There. So I've put a tea towel underneath my mixing bowl so it doesn't vibrate so on the worktops and make a horrible noise. So we're going to start off just by beating up our softened butter to a nice fluffy mix. So we switch the plug on. Sorry if this is making an awful racket. I don't know if there's anything I can do to change the sound on the video. I'm just going to beat this. It shouldn't take long. We get white. It'll change from that yellowy, buttery colour to a slightly paler, white, fluffy consistency. I'll show you what's going on. Now my butter was very soft, so we're probably nearly there. If your butter's not quite as soft as mine, it'll take a little bit longer, but it'll work perfectly well. I've used salted butter, and I would definitely suggest salted butter is what you need. It improves the flavour of the biscuits no end. If you haven't got salted butter, add a pinch of salt from the salt pot. It'll be perfect. Now I've already measured out 60 grams of icing sugar, and I'm going to add to this big bowl the rest of my ingredients. I've sieved the icing sugar already. To which we're going to add the all-important custard powder, which I have weighed, but I haven't sieved it yet. So we want 75 grams of custard powder. To show you what I'm doing, do it that way around. And I'm going to sieve that in as well. So I've got 60 grams of icing sugar and 75 grams of custard powder, to which I'm going to add plain flour. I think the Americans call it all-purpose flour. I can't remember, I'm going to check my recipe and make sure I tell you properly. 140 grams of plain flour, which I'm also going to add to my icing sugar and custard powder. And if we sieve everything, not only does it take out the lumps, it'll help give us nice fluffy melt in the mouth biscuits. The thing that really makes the melt in the mouth texture of these biscuits is the custard powder. I also make these and swap my custard powder for corn flour, and then also add a tablespoon of cocoa powder, and I can make a chocolate version of these biscuits. So all my ingredients sieved in, and I'm just going to give these a gentle stirring together. And the last ingredient we need to add is some baking powder. 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. I ought to put that through the sieve as well, I think, because this is definitely a bit lumpy. Hello, pussycat, Bramble. I've got there 1/4 teaspoon baking powder. I'm glad I sieved because it is a bit lumpy. There. Back up on the shelf. So with all our dry ingredients gently stirred together, I'm going to put these into our softened butter. Not all at once. You make a big fluffy puff of dust all over your kitchen, which would not be good. So I'm probably about 1/3 I've added. I'm going to get a spatula here and mix it in a little bit with a spatula first, just to help combine that, as I say, not creating too much dust, because then I'll have to clean it all up. And if I can avoid having to clean up mess, all the better. I'm going to risk giving this a quick blast with the mixer because I'm impatient. Dusty dust. There we go, it's made a sort of slightly creamy clumpy dough. I'm going to scrape off every last drop, because it'll be getting too thick to mix now. Next bit I'll have to do by hand. Waste not, want not. We'll have every scrap we can. That might make another whole biscuit. There we go. Into the bowl you go. Scrape that off my hands. More goopy. There we are. I'm not going to wash my hands just yet, because in a minute I'm going to have them in this bowl mixing up this mix. So I'm going to put in about half of the flour I've got left, the second third of flour, icing sugar and custard powder, and I'm just gently folding, cutting and squishing to incorporate that all together. We're going to end up with a pastry-like dough, and that's what we're aiming for anyway. There we go. And the last bit of dry ingredients, in it all goes. Get that out of the way. Bit more cutting and folding. You have to be slow and gentle because, as I said, create an awful lot of dust. You don't want to be breathing it in either. Make you cough. Oh, that's coming together nicely. I don't know how well you can see. We're sort of, it is like a pastry crumb going on. So I'm going to get my hands in there and squish this next bit together. And before I do, I'm going to move my mixer out of the way. So I've finished with that. And I want to use the rest of the work surface. There we go. And I probably don't need that either. Towel, everything gone, all change. So with our crumbly mixture, we're now going to get your hands in there and squish that all together to make a nice lump of soft dough. It's a little bit sticky. Yeah, there we go, it's coming together beautifully. Scrape the extra crumbs off my fingers. How are we doing? Oh, not bad. Almost there. Oh, I was flicked a crumb on the floor. I'll have to clean it up now. There we go. I'll be standing on it later, squishing it in. A lump. An empty bowl, a lump of dough, and sticky fingers. I'm going to use my butter, and I'm going to use the back of this knife because it is a sharp cutting knife, just to scrape a bit of that extra dough off my fingers. There's my blade there. Right, so squash it all together. Squish, 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 squish. Pick it up. And now I've not put anything on my worktop. Now I've got a smooth work surface. It's not a raw wood or grouted tiles. It's nice and smooth, like it's just laminate, but any sort of shiny worktop. So there's no ice. I haven't dusted with icing sugar or flour or anything else. This is an oily and greasy enough dough from all that butter, but it doesn't stick. So to make our 24 cookies from this lovely dough, I've rolled out a sausagey shape. I'm going to cut that in half. Nice easy measurements. 2 sausages. Do them one at a time. Roll that out any length you like, really, but 2 hands is fine. Cut that in half. And do the same with the other half. Half, half, half and half. So it's nice, easy to measure out. Cut that one in half. So now I'm down to 4 sausagey bits. Roll out each sausage, cut it in half. Put to the side. Next one, half. Pass that over. You get the drift. Half, 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 half. Now I'm down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces. Now each of these 8 pieces I'm going to roll out into another little sausagey shape, and I'm going to cut that into 3 equalish bits. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're not an exact science. I'm just going to roll them into a little bit of a ball. So, each of our little sausages, 3 equally lumps. That looks like a big lump. That's not too bad. Do that. As I say, they don't have to be perfect. If you want them perfect, you could weigh each little bit on the scales. Probably about 18, 20 grams. Chop, chop. Give them each a little bit of a squish in it. Now that one feels very small, so if I carry on squishing, that one feels quite biggish. So I'll put a little extra, swap it over. Just, yeah, they're about the same. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to get one of my pre-prepared baking trays. Put it so you can see it. Yes, that'll do. Move some of my lumps over. Try not to stick them together though. So you take one of your lumps of dough, one of your 24 pieces, and roll it in your hands to make a ball, a round sphere. Now what I like to do with them is, once you've rolled them around a bit, is to just gently squash slightly in the palms of your hands, so you get a little disc of dough, and pop that on your baking sheet. Remember, I have 12 on each sheet, so roll it and a gentle squish. We're about ½ centimetre thick. Still quite thick biscuits at the moment. They'll spread slightly when we put them in the oven. And in a moment we're going to squash them with a fork as well, so that will make them a little bit more spread. So roll it up and squish together with the palms of your hands. well, this one feels quite small. A tiny biscuit. I'll put that one there. I might find a big one in a minute. This is a little bit bigger. What's that one like? Oh yes, there we go. Add a little to that one. Felt a bit smaller in my hand. There we go. Squish. And roll and squish. I see that last one was a bit cracked around the edge. I wouldn't worry about it. They just make them look rustic and original and authentic and beautifully homemade. Much better than anything you can buy in the shops. Well, that's not true. Somebody might be making lovely homemade cookies and selling them in a shop. But it's different to factory, mass marketing produced. There we go. Now, as I said, I'm going to use a fork. And I'm going to mark and squish our biscuits. 12 biscuits. Another 12 lumps of dough to do in a minute. And take a fork and I'm just going to squash it, roll it gently over the top of our biscuit. Oh, two-handed job. Which will leave this, I don't know if you can see, put a little stripy pattern on the top. This. You are squashing them down slightly as well. Squash and roll, squash and roll. What I also like to do is, with some of them, I'll put my fork in the opposite direction and do the same squishy roll. And I get a little fancy square pattern going on that I think looks very pretty and changes it. I'm not going to do that on all of the biscuits, just some of them. Most of them I'm going to leave with a little stripy mark from a gentle fork squish. You could just push it straight down. It works, but as you see, it's a bit harder to get off the biscuit, which is why I use that slight rocking motion as I'm doing it. Let's just make that one square. There we go. Oh, stuck. There we go. So that's our cookies, biscuits, all ready for the oven. So I'll pop these in and I'll make the other tray. When we're all cooked and ready, it should take 15 to 20 minutes. So after 15 minutes, keep an eye on your oven because you don't want to burn them. You just cook them till they're just starting to change colour around the edges. So 15 minutes in the oven and I'll see you when they're done. Hello and welcome back. These cookies are just done. Don't know why I've got my glasses on. There we go. Obviously been reading something. Where's my scraper? There it is. These took 20 minutes in the oven. And as you can, I don't know how well you can see actually, they're just starting to brown around the edges here. I'll put this down, it's hot. Leave them on the tray for a minute. But we want to take them off and put them onto a cooling rack. They're quite delicate at this stage still. We'll put them in the cooling rack. Then they don't keep cooking on the hot tray. There we go. Two more. There we are. Right, I'm going to move this out of the way because I'm trying to touch it because it's very hot. Put that back there. There we go. Now, like I said, they did take 20 minutes in the oven. And in true YouTube style, true Blue Peter style, whee! This was the first tray. I took them out 30 minutes ago. So these are nice and cold, ready to be coated in chocolate if you wish. Once they've cooled down, you can eat them now. They're delicious. And I'm not going to put chocolate on all of them. So I'm going to move these hot ones out of the way a moment. Out we go. Now, whilst you've been away, I've got 100 grams of dark chocolate and broken it up. I'm using a teacup, but I'm going to melt it in the microwave. So anything, any container fit for your microwave is fine for your 100 grams of chocolate. It doesn't have to be dark chocolate. I like dark chocolate, so I've chosen dark chocolate. You can use milk or even white. You can use pink chocolate if you want. It's entirely your choice. So I'm going to blitz this in the microwave just till it's melted down and runny. I'm not a fan of melting chocolate in the microwave. It is so easy to burn it. So quick, short bursts. Really, it's my porcelain cup that's going to get hot. I'm going to stop this now. Woo! So it's the cup that gets hot more than the chocolate. And it's the heat in the cup that'll help melt your chocolate. Quick short blasts, and even when it's still quite lumpy, stir it about, and that mixing is going to help spread the heat and melt all of the chocolate. Just a few seconds more. So little quick 10-minute blasts in the microwave. 10 minutes. Little quick 10-second blast in the microwave, because it is so easy to burn chocolate in a microwave. If you don't have a microwave, that is not a problem. You can melt your chocolate in a bain-marie. In other words, over a pot of boiling water is probably a better, safer way to do it. I'm a bit sticky here still. I'd like this to be a little warmer. It's flowing, but it's still quite gloppy. You can see it's leaving marks. It's sitting on the top. Bring it closer. I don't know if that helps or not. I kind of want it to go flat on the top when I put it in. Bang, there's microwave. Ow, hot. That's looking good. Nice, runny, drippy chocolate. As I said earlier, we wanted a spare sheet of greaseproof paper. So now we get to use it. So I'm going to lay out our greaseproof paper and my cooled biscuits. Then we take one of our biscuits, and I'm going to move this spoon out of the way. It'll help to hold the paper down. And dip it into the chocolate, swish it back and forth a little bit. A little bit of a shake, and then lay it out on our greaseproof. Oh, you can't see. Bring it back a bit. There we go. Try another one. I usually coat about half of the biscuits that we've made with chocolate. They taste delicious, and it makes them look pretty when you lay them out on a plate to serve and onto the paper. Oh, and these are the ones that made the little use the fork twice to make the little squares in the middle. I don't usually dip them in the chocolate. I'm not sure why. I like the stripy ones. And I also, personally, I put my stripes in with the stripes pointing down into the chocolate. No particular reason. I'm sure it doesn't matter. They'll taste just as delicious if you put your stripes in sideways. I just never have. Yum! Chocolate dipped shortcakey biscuits. They are delicious. And you will have, there's 100 grams of chocolate I melted. There's probably enough to coat and dip all 24 biscuits with that, but it gets difficult because there's not enough depth to dip them into. So I usually end up with about 50 grams of chocolate left over that I haven't used, because I choose to only dip half of my biscuits. And So I just pour this bit out. Little spatula. There we go. So with my remaining bit of chocolate, let's bring you into view. I'll move this rack out of the way. My remaining bit of chocolate, I just pour it out onto the baking sheet and leave it to cool, and then you can either use it on the next baking project you're doing or eat it when it's gone cold. So just a little puddle of chocolate, spread it out, and it'll be ready to use for the next thing you want chocolate for. Dribbles. You could, I suppose, drizzle it on the biscuits. That's it, we're all done. Beautiful shortcakey custard biscuits dipped in chocolate. Where are my cold ones? Here. I'm going to eat one with bread on. They are snappy, crummy. Very good to your mouthful, crunchy and melt in the mouthy. Waste not, want not with this lovely chocolate. Scrape it off my spatula. I'll be licking that once you've gone. Yum. Well, cheers. See you next time we're in the kitchen. Happy cooking. Delicious. Even if I do say so myself. Bye.